Are we working? All right, try it again. Good morning, everyone. All right, thank you. Thank you for the introduction earlier as well. I'm Earl Buford. I'm the president of CALE, the Council for Adult and Exponential Learning. I am so pleased to be here today to celebrate this OIC and its great work, but also the fact that you all came here today for the next 2 days to really talk about the great best practices in this country, but also the work that's still ahead of us. And so the panel today will talk about some of the great things that they're doing, some of the ideas that they have, but also looking forward to your questions about what else can be done. Is that fair? Great. Often, and you all attend many conferences, many summits, you hear lots of great things, you do lots of great work. So it's always illuminating to have the opportunity to hear what others are doing. And these conferences are tough because you see a bio in a platform, but it doesn't tell you who a person is or what they are. So what I like to do whenever I have the pleasure to moderate a panel is I love to give each speaker a few minutes to just talk about who they are and where they're coming from, and just a nugget or two about the great work you're doing. So if that's okay with the audience, I think it is, because I hold the mic, right? Exactly. If that's okay with the panel, we will start that way. But before we do that, I just, the title here today is, hey, Rick Beasley, how you doing? The world famous Rick Beasley here, my friends. Our panel today is Pathways to Economic Mobility, Strategies, Observations, and Innovative Trends. My organization, CALE, which is a 48-year-old organization, has done great work in connecting systems as a membership organization, connecting higher education at all levels, 4-year, 2-year technical colleges, employers, but most importantly, connecting them back to organizations that do the work. And so I'm personally pleased to hear from the panelists today, as I'm sure you are. So I'll stop talking, and we'll start on the far end because you're so far away from me. So would you introduce yourself and tell us about you?
Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to be here too. My name is Corrine Torres. I am the Vice President for Workforce Education and Innovation at Broward College. I've been at the college for 8 years. I've been in education for about 20 or so years, and then worked within nonprofit prior to that. Some of the major things that we're doing at Broward College is really getting into the community. We have launched a new way of thinking about post-secondary education through what we call Broward Up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And it's UP, it stands for Unlimited Potential, and it's because we really see unlimited potential in our community. And this is a prime example when we're looking at the middle class or those marginalized communities that need those opportunities to be able to move up to that middle class and to sustain that. And so we're doing a lot of great work at Broward College, and as they talked about in the first panel, we have a lot of investors, and we're getting those investments because we're really impacting our community and really reaching in, creating access to post-secondary education where there wasn't access. And so I'm very happy to be here.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Goldman, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator for your Broward Technical Colleges, more commonly known as Atlantic, McFadder, and Sheridan. I've been in my role for 25 years. And in one sentence, the thing I'm most proud of is that for 6 years in a row, we have awarded more industry certifications than any other educational institutions in the state of Florida.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Geddes. I'm the president and CEO at LifeNet for Families right here in Broward County, and I have served in this role for the past 8 years. I am incredibly honored to be here today and want to thank Newton Sannon for inviting me to serve on the panel. At LifeNet for Families, we provide food and other basic resources to people in our community who are struggling. We'll talk a little bit about those other resources as the time goes on. But if there's anything you want to remember about what we do at LifeNet for Families, we serve as the emergency room for people who are experiencing poverty here in our community.
Good morning, everyone. Felipe Pinzon. If I want to define myself, I'm an immigrant who came to United States 22 years ago. Very proud that I joined Hispanic Unity as a client back in 2000. Went also to Sheridan Technical Center. Did my best to learn the language. 20 years observing this community, and today I'm the proud president and CEO of Hispanic Unity. Let me tell you about Hispanic Unity. We're celebrating our 40th. So we have been serving the South Florida community for the last 40 years. Our focus is the immigrant community, but we really serve everyone that comes to our organization. We serve about 20,000 families every single year. And our focus today is to make sure that we close the income gap, and that we make sure that our clients become self-sufficient, productive, and civically engaged. Thank you for the invitation, Newton. Thank you, OIC, for a fantastic event.
Good morning. My name is Antonio Delgado. I'm the Vice President of Innovation and Technology Partnerships at Miami-Dade College. Miami-Dade College is one of the largest colleges in the nation. We serve over 100,000 students every year. But more than that, we're very proud that we are the largest college serving minorities. 91 to 95% of our students are either Hispanic, African American, or any other demographic considered minority. So our mantra is that talent is universal, opportunity is not. So my job is to create those opportunities by bringing the leading tech companies in the world to our region and making sure that we have the right curriculum that leads into the right jobs for them to actually really get into the middle class. I call it the ticket to the middle class. And also locally to partner with great institutions like OIC, Career Social Florida, with Mr. Beasley here, and any other like local government and other institutions to make sure that we create those pathways. So happy to be going through the panel on the solutions that we have for our region.
Thank you, Antonio. So just content. I will ask a series of questions to the panel or to individual panelists. We will definitely leave time for Q&A from the audience. I'm not sure if we have mics set up, but I'm hoping to leave anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes because your questions are vital, and we want to make sure that as an audience you get a chance to express and communicate. OIC is just I've had a long relationship with them, and I love the title of this conference, Middle Class Summit, because the work that we do, while it has lots of attachments to it, I always say it's about helping our clientele, for lack of a better term, reach that middle class status, whatever level that is, and we provide that opportunity. And it's also very personal to me. I was very fortunate that I was the product of a high school pregnancy. Fortunately, my parents have been married 53 years now. My mother went back to school, adult learner, which is great for me, running an organization that caters to adult learners. Became a teacher. My dad went through a training program that was directly connected to an employer in which he worked for 30 years and graduated. We graduated and worked for 30 years. And that training organization was OIC in Milwaukee, my hometown. So I've lived it firsthand. We won the workforce lottery. So the work we do is really to help create that lottery opportunity. So I will stop talking again and turn over to the panel with a series of questions. So, being that you all are educators, trainers, community service oriented, talent developers, how can training, academies, vocational and technical institutions, higher education, community-based organizations, et cetera, how are we meeting the needs of young workers, young adults? I know you all have touched base on your programs and your mission. I want to dig deeper into that, particularly around the hardest to serve 18 to 24-year-old population, the ones that are not labor market participating. So I know you're all doing that in some way, somehow. So Antonio, would you start by just touching base on what you're doing presently?
So, so usually we think about a college is just a typical education pathway. Of course, that's what we offer. We offer degrees. But in today's economy, it's not just a pathway, like one pathway fits all. So there are multiple pathways to get into a job, to get into a middle class, and definitely is through education. So, of course, we offer the typical pathway to an associate degree and then to a bachelor that we're fortunate to offer at a college in Florida. But we also offer now, especially with the pandemic, we see how many people are desperate to get skills to get a job. That they cannot wait 4 years to get into a job, into a high-paying job. So we have developed many different pathways to allow for people to just get skills, get a job. And it actually doesn't matter your age. It could be 18 to 24, it could be more than that. Existing professionals coming back for upskilling, reskilling. So the goal is really, how can we meet everyone where they are? And not everyone has the same route. So our approach is, how can we make sure that when we deliver short-term credentials, that they are stackable so they can continue later on, because at some point the degree will be needed, but how can we do it in a way that the skills are there since the beginning and they can get the job? And that's why partnerships are so important. Partnering with the companies that are actually offering the jobs, partnering with the leading tech institutions. My expertise is more in technology, so partnering with Microsoft, with Amazon Web Services, with Google, with Apple, bringing not just scholarship, but actually the right skills for the students. And then partnering with the local institutions like OIC, like Career Source of Florida, like our counties, our cities, and then together bringing opportunities like the Good Job Challenge that we were able to receive just 2 weeks ago for $10 million to help people get skills, get a job in a short period of time. So really it's all about partnerships. It's all about making sure that we can give our community the right skills, and from there, a pathway to a job, and ideally, of course, a high-paying job that can provide for themselves and their families.
Thank you. A Hispanic community, we're doing so much work to make sure that working families become self-sufficient, but there are a couple of things that I want to highlight today and to answer that question. One of them is we have partnered with Broward County Public Schools over the last 20-plus years to make sure that brown and black public school students are able to graduate on time. There is so much work that has to be around that. So Hispanic community is running a youth development program. That's one piece, and it's getting high school students college ready and making sure they are also job ready. But what I really want to highlight today is the approach that we started using about 4 years ago, because we clearly understood that it was not enough just to help these young adults to graduate on time and just to encourage them to pursue higher education. We started focusing also on serving the entire family. There is no way students will be able to succeed without their parents doing well as well. So while we provide support to students, at the same time, we assess families, mothers and single mothers, by the way, who happen to be 70% of the clients we serve, to make sure they have food on the table, to make sure they can pay the rent, and so on. So much of what we have spoken about today. But that's the approach we are using to make sure college readiness is at the center, but it's working with the entire family to be able to get to that point.
Because of the magnitude of our mission, often young people come to LifeNet for Families in the volunteer capacity. They come to LifeNet because they need school hours, first of all. They need volunteer hours for school. And what we do there is we really focus on the skills that employers are looking for while they're having this experience. We also make them understand the importance of the mission. Because sometimes if people just are coming and they're showing up, either for work or volunteering, they have a means to an end that's personal for them. And our goal as employers, trainers, educators, is really to tie them and connect them to the bigger purpose, to inspire them to want to do an amazing job. And that's what we try to do at LifeNet for Families. We connect them to our mission, help them understand how they're making a difference. That is something that's meaningful for people. A lot of people get up and go to work every day, and it's just a job. Oh, gotta get up and go to work. Gotta do this again. I gotta pay my bills, and that's what it's about. And so most of the young people who arrive at LifeNet, they have a similar attitude, which is, I need to get a certain amount of hours. And by the time they leave at the end of the summer, they've been transformed. And I believe that we've impacted community and a lot of the other programs because these young people are now better prepared, they've been held accountable, they've also been immersed in a culture where they are treated like employees with respect, and then they've also helped to make a difference in the lives of people who are seeking assistance. And it makes all the difference in the programs and in the workforce that we're creating here in Broward County.
So your question started with the ill-prepared student. So I'm going to break that down a little bit. So the student who comes to us is ill-prepared. Is it a language barrier? Is it a reading barrier? What is their challenge? So at the technical colleges, remediation is free. So if they are able to enroll in their technical program, which I'll get to in a second, they can also do remediation at the same time. Unless the level is so low, then we need to bring them up a bit just so that they can be successful while enrolled in the technical program. We also find that it's very important to partner, as you said, with different agencies, with different companies. And a few examples of that for a language barrier would be, for instance, the HEICO Corporation in Hollywood, Florida. They do 90-something% of the parts that go on all of our airplanes. And the FAA requires that in order to touch any of those parts, there needs to be a certain level of understanding of the English language. So we at Sheridan Technical College actually taught a program at HEICO during lunchtime where HEICO paid for 30 minutes of the day, and the employee gave up 30 minutes of their day, worked for free actually, so that they could learn blueprint reading and understand certain words in the English language. We also did that with Marriott Corporation, so that someone in housekeeping, when asked for extra shampoo or extra towels, knew what the word was in English. We're currently doing that with Terumo Aortic, who makes those valves that go into our bodies, again because there needs to be a certain level of understanding with the English language. So wherever the barrier is for the ill-prepared student, we want to help them meet it, because we agree, it is about pathways, coming and going. Not everybody wants a college degree, a university degree, but we want them to have the opportunity to go there. But they got to get on the road. So I see Mason Jackson is here. We've been a part of a program now for, I think, 5 years called Multiple Pathways to the American Dream. And it's about where you get on that pathway. Getting an industry certification, which is what we do, gets you on that path. And it may mean that you have a job while you're sitting at Harvard or the University of Florida or Florida State University because you already have a leg up, because you already have a certification, and you already have a way to earn money, make connections within your industry while you're going to university. Or you may not ever want to go to university. Or you may not be able to afford it at 18 or 25, and you're working. Because if the pandemic taught us anything, there are people that have essential skills. I know personally, during the pandemic, I needed a plumber. I needed my air conditioning repaired. I needed the ice maker on my freezer repaired. And those people never missed a day of work because they are essential. We are not sending those jobs overseas. And all of us here, when we need someone like that, we call our friends and neighbors and say, do you know someone reliable? Do you know someone that I can count on that can come and fix the electricity in my house, fix the plumbing, whatever it is? And those are the skills that we train for. Do we want them to go on? Do we want them to be entrepreneurs and own their own companies? Yes, we do. But it's all about where we start and partnering with companies. Thank you.
So at Broward College, one of the things that we realized really, really early on is that those that were ill-prepared in communities that had very low education attainment, very high unemployment rates, those individuals weren't really coming to us, right? Our buildings, our campuses were very far away from those communities. And so we realized that we needed to go into the community to reach out to them, to create access to them. Because that's one of the first things, right, is how do we create access to this education or to remediation or what have you to better prepare them for a job or to get education attainment. And so we realized early on that we're not going to be building new buildings, but what we could do is we can partner with organizations like OIC, Hispanic Unity, Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, lots of community agencies and municipalities. They have facilities. They're in the community. And so one of the first things that we had to do was reach out to those individuals to kind of engage them. And we engaged them through our community partners. They had trusted relationships with these partners. And we went in and we decided we're going to offer technical training towards an industry certification for free, right? That was the main word, for free. So we said, okay, we've got them hooked if we say it's for free. But a lot of people came to us with a lot of barriers. And those barriers were that they were not prepared for the type of work. We realized that they weren't passing those industry certification tests. So no matter what training that we gave them, they weren't passing those tests because they were ill-prepared. We realized that they came to us with issues like, hey, you know, I have a child at home, I can't attend your training, or I don't have the right technology, I don't have access to the internet. So we decided to offer those trainings within our community. So we took the barrier away as far as transportation. We offered computers at the site, internet access for free. We paired with the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCAs who offer childcare at the locations, right? We're actually on we're sharing a building off of Sistrunk with the YMCA right now. Broward College is on one of the floors. We're offering courses to the parents for free while their children are in the camps. So we're taking away a lot of those barriers, and what we realized is that we can't do it alone, right? There are a lot of wraparound services that need to happen. And then we also realized to get them prepared. How do we get them prepared? So we're now offering basic skills instruction while they're taking their technical certificate or technical training. And so they're not losing time, right? So we're not doing remediation and then putting them into a program. And so whether they have language skills deficiencies or basic skills, we're pairing that together and we're making sure that they're aligned. So those two instructors are working together so that they don't lose any time, because time is essential to getting them into those jobs that will actually create economic mobility. And then the other piece that we're doing, we're also working with our employer partners to create programs that are labor market, that address the labor market, right? And so we didn't want to offer courses that wasn't going to lead to an immediate job. And so giving them that industry certification, once they get that industry certification, that also translate to college credit. And so what was happening was that we were getting them prepared, they were getting their industry certifications, and they were getting 3-6 credits. So next thing you know, they're halfway through a technical certificate, and they're halfway through, or they're a quarter of the way through towards a degree. And so one of the things that I think that, although working on basic skills is so important, but how do we motivate them? How do we take away that, that myth that college is not for me? And so we're doing that by little wins, right? Getting them towards an industry certification, getting them towards a technical certificate, getting them towards a degree. And one of the things that we know is that 65% of jobs require some type of post-secondary education. And so we're making sure that they're prepared for that and that they're prepared to get some type of credential to be able to get into that market towards a middle to high wage job.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah, make sure we're on.
Yes, it is
Perfect.
on. Hello, good morning.
We're going to give you
Please,
the opportunity to say hello to the crowd and just tell us about who you
absolutely.
are.
Good morning, everyone. Please accept my apologies for being late due to wandering around this marvelous facility and just patiently waiting until it was my turn. And my turn had come, and I didn't realize it. I apologize. So I am Gypsy Metellus. I am the executive director of SANTLA, the Haitian Neighborhood Center. We're a social service / advocacy organization specializing in South Florida's Haitian community and serving those who are the most vulnerable, those who need us the most and have a number of issues and challenges that I'm sure you've heard from my other co-panelists, in particular Felipe of Hispanic Unity, because again, we tend to serve populations with similar profiles. But the Haitian community, I want to tell you, first, isn't a monolith, right? We happen to serve those members of the community who are the most vulnerable, who are the most challenged, who come to us with, let's say, no skills at all, low skills, and sometimes functionally illiterate, whose immigration status varies from having TPS, temporary protected status, to those who are legal permanent residents, to even those who are increasingly becoming citizens, right? But I think the common thread is our client population tends to be among the less educated, less skilled, vulnerable in every way that our statistics would have us know, from educational attainment to skills and everything else in between. And so we have our work cut out for us. So I'm not sure what the first question was beyond the introduction, if you wouldn't mind repeating.
Well, you've actually touched on it. We wanted just an introduction of who you are and who you represent, and you actually dove right in. So the first few questions really were focusing on things that you're doing, especially for key populations. We talked about hard to serve and the younger populations, but I'm going to take a different approach now. I'm going to try to ask a three-part question, so hopefully my brain can handle this. You all talked about how you partner together and who you partner with, but I want to do a deeper dive into partnerships, employers, resources, maybe policy. So let's do a step-by-step approach. So I had the fortune of working in workforce boards throughout my career, working in, managed a few. So I want to talk about how education, community serving organizations, public workforce systems work together. In particular, just kind of illuminate the work you've done together. Some of you have already touched on, but I'm going to go deeper into what you're doing together, and then I want to talk about how employers fit into that. So I'm not going to do a full panel. I'm going to select a few, so please start with that.
Let me
Felipe.
get started because I wanted to actually touch on this before. And my takeaway from the last 10 minutes is we cannot do this by ourselves. We have to collaborate. We have to work together. So I want to touch on a couple of initiatives we launched years ago. One of them was with Sheridan Technical College, who happens to be a fantastic partner of Hispanic community over the last several years. And it was a career pathway sort of approach in the health industry. The college, of course, provided instruction, and Hispanic community was in charge of providing the wraparound services. Happy to say that 100% of those students graduated. It was a short certification, graduated on time, and they were hired by Memorial even before they graduated. So that's number one. And I think that we have to just replicate that, do a lot more of that. Number two, right in the middle of the pandemic, Broward College forever has been a fantastic partner of Hispanic community, but I think that we have been taking that partnership to the next level. right in the middle of the pandemic, 2020, we launched what we call a learning cafe. And it's teaching immigrants the language, right? In a very friendly environment. And by the way, we came up with that model because that's what they wanted, not what we believe they needed. And Broward College was fantastic, in providing language instruction to those clients, while Hispanic community was providing the wraparound services. Broward App, we all know what it is, and if you don't, I'm sure we will explain a little bit more about it later on. It's a fantastic initiative here in Broward County. We're taking that to the next level. We're having conversations with the leadership team, from Broward College about how we can work together. And what I'm putting on the table, and by the way, I think that this is something we all should consider, is an integrated approach. And what I'm suggesting is English language integrated into the curriculum. We cannot continue this way and asking immigrants and asking people that are learning the language, very qualified, by the way, just wait until you learn the language, fully understand and fully speak it, to be able to join the workforce and get a good job. I think that approach is not working anymore, and let me tell you why. In 2010, 50% of the community was black and brown. 10 years later, by 2020, that number is almost 60%. And you have newcomers living in Broward County with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and even PhDs. Very qualified workforce in entry-level jobs. What a waste. And I think that the approach we should follow is what else we should do to be able to get that people in the workforce doing what they know what to do. So I'm excited about what Broward College and Hispanic community, and of course the technical colleges can do to make sure, our immigrant community learn the language, get the skills, get the certifications they need so they can get the jobs they deserve.
Thank you, Felipe. Dr. Karen, would you love to enhance that?
Yes, I think one of the things that, and in any community, I think we have a lot of great organizations, and when I looked at Broward Up and I looked at all of our partners, I saw that there were so many strengths in some of our partners, right? And so Hispanic Unity working with the immigrant population, OIC working with a very targeted group. So I think it's really important for us as a community to really bring all of those resources together, right? So we do partner with our technical colleges, we do post-secondary education, and so what are all of our strengths? And to really bring that together, right? So that we're all serving the same individuals at some times, and so if you could provide wraparound services with your organization and we could provide the post-secondary education, why can't we pair that together and leverage those resources? And I think that's one of the most important pieces of Broward Up is leveraging resources, leveraging our partnerships. And that goes all the way from our marketing. So we don't really market very much because we have our community partners marketing free classes at their locations, right, to their clients and to their customers. So I think that that's one of the really big pieces of what we can do in our community to bring all of these partnerships together. The other part the second part of that question is our business partners. So we are working with our business partners on the front end, right? And so what the traditional model is that we have our students start a program, we say, okay, get this certificate, get this degree, and you'll get a job. But we're really deliberately working with our employment partners now, and we're creating those partnerships where we're saying Memorial Health and the Coalition and IT companies, all of those companies, what are what are your trends? What are the jobs that you're going to be seeing down the line? Or what are your immediate needs? And we are going to build a program. And when we talk to students, we're almost saying, hey, come to Broward College, we're going to guarantee you a job because we have these partnerships with these employers. And the other piece to that is that employers have to think a little bit differently. Today's market may not require a degree, right? And so employers need to look differently at their job descriptions to allow access to some of these jobs where maybe a technical certificate could replace a degree as long as that individual shows those competencies, or an industry certification shows competencies in a certain area and it doesn't require a bachelor's degree, because it is limiting and creating a barrier to those jobs for those individuals. And so we're working with a lot of our partners to relook at that, to create opportunities for individuals. Maybe it is at the entry level, but we're making sure that every company that we work with is looking at a long-term plan for those individuals, a career ladder. Where is the next step? And on that career ladder, yes, you're going to need more education. You know, for every step that you take, it's probably another certificate or a degree or what have you. And we're also creating work experiences. A lot of individuals are changing jobs. We felt that during our COVID-19, that a lot of people decided, oh, okay, it's time for me to change job. My company shut down, so now I need to get into a new job. And so their work experiences weren't there. And so we're creating those work experiences. We're creating apprenticeship programs, which creates a job right away. And that company is investing in those individuals through that apprenticeship program and creating those work experiences and getting them the competencies that they need. So I think the partnerships there's so many different type of partnerships, whether it's a community agencies, resources, or even employer partners. All of those really have to come to the table for us to make a true impact.
You can tell we're from the same cloth, because what I would say is a lot of what she just said for Broward College. So organizations and businesses, horizon forecasting. What are the jobs that are out there? Where are things going? What tweaks do we need to make? We're nimble enough that we can make those tweaks in what we're teaching in our curriculum. So making sure that what we do is relevant to what the business community needs. Recognizing very much that we have articulation agreements to Broward College, so to the state college system, so that the programs you have with us, you can continue your education. But one of the key things I think that you mentioned was for the HR departments to look at those job descriptions, to require 5 years experience. Really, 4.5 years wouldn't do it? Or 2.5 if you've got all the certifications that you need. So to really be looking at what are you asking? What are you really valuing? Because if you're using some algorithm and somebody's got 4 years and 10 months, they may get kicked out and never even get to the interview stage in the company. So to make sure that we really look at that. On the job training, you know, we talk about apprenticeships, but apprenticeships are extremely formal. It's a long process to get an approved apprenticeship, but it's not that big a deal to do on-the-job training, to do work-based learning, to do internships, to do externships, to do clinicals. Most of our programs, all of our medical programs require a clinical aspect. So they're learning on the job. They're seeing what it's really like in the work environment, making sure that we have lots of those opportunities, that we have scholarships, that we have tuition assistance. Not saying make it free, because I'm a believer in having skin in the game, but being able to offer people, employees, some assistance with being able to continue their education. And lastly, the thing that I would add that is extremely important is how do we reach out to families and youth? And we do that by flipping the script. We have got to stop saying that unless you have a 4-year degree, you're a failure. You are not a failure. As Dr. Mildred Coyne from Broward College is frequently quoted as saying, stop picking mascots and majors. Pick a career. Pick something that you're passionate about. Pick something that can help get you an honest living, and then grow that career from there. So I started by saying what I'm proud of. I'm proud of 6 years in a row. I'm proud of the fact that we are meeting what the industry says. And as the industry keeps changing their target, what is needed? I often say if we taught about automotive technology with carburetors and cars don't have carburetors, our students aren't going to get a job. We need to stay current, and we need to have that constant communication from industry to say what current looks like. What does the horizon look like? So we need to make sure that our partners are working with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, wanted to follow up on that precise example, but I have a question for the audience. Like, how many of you live in Florida? Okay, most of the room. Like, how many of you live in the big cities, either Orlando, Tampa, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, or Miami? Okay. So the reality, and we heard this from the last panel, like, have you seen the housing market going up in your cities? Yes, right? We heard that. And we all know that. And what is the reason? Is that our cities are thriving. Our cities are bringing, since the pandemic, more businesses than ever before. Our cities are actually creating, there are more jobs being created than ever before. So actually, the problem is not lack of jobs. There are more jobs than ever. The problem is, how do we connect our local people with those jobs? The answer is partnerships. How do we make sure that those companies that are looking for more jobs than ever here in our region, how can they find a partner here locally? The reality, why the housing market is up? Because they're paying high, but they're bringing the talent from the outside. And that talent has the means to pay at a higher price. What happens with our local communities? What happens is not to look at this from the bad angle. While we wait for the affordable housing to come up and create more solutions, like what can we do in the short term? It's education. With education, you can actually aspire to a high-paying job. So how do we make that happen? It's not just to trust academic environment, like you guys fix it, this is yours. No, it's actually together. And the panel already mentioned that's the value of partnerships. It's the value of partnering with the companies that are coming and, hey, we're here and we are the ones preparing the talent, you need to work with us. But it's also trust. It's not we saying like, you have to work with us. It's let's trust each other. Let's work together to make it happen. But it's also local government, creating the right incentives for the companies to come, but to hire locally. And that's the real meaning of partnership. So on that example of automotive services, do you know that Florida is the #2 state buying and using electric vehicles after California? So for electric vehicles, you need a totally new workforce. So it's about partnership. So at Miami-Dade College, we partner with Tesla equipment, with Tesla vehicles. With only 16 weeks of training, you get a job at Tesla. So that's the way. Get the companies with the skills that they're looking for and partner with the company. Bring them home. Make them feel like this is the community that is waiting for you. And yeah, great. Tesla is even paying stipend for the students to not to worry about getting a job, another job while they're in the program. Only 16 weeks you get a job at Tesla. Thousands of people waiting to get in the line to get into that program. Tesla doesn't have thousands of jobs openings, especially in Florida. So that's when Career Social Florida, Miami-Dade Beacon Council, partnered with Miami-Dade College and Beam Automotive. How can we expand outside of Tesla? Getting all the automotive service industry, as you said, with the right skills and the talent locally. So those are just examples of meaningful partnerships with government, with economic development, with academia, and the companies that are looking for the talent. And there are many other examples that I can use from Amazon Web Services that usually hire from a bachelor degree up, and then creating a cloud computing program at a community college somewhere in the United States. It happens to be in Miami. They don't have offices in Miami, but they're now getting our students with an associate degree hired at Amazon Web Services because of the credentials and the skills of the students. So on the other side is affordability. We heard from the last panel, like how many students graduate with a debt? How can we make it affordable? How can we make it in a way that they can graduate even without debt? Not minimum, like without debt. And that's where foundations, like our previous panel, come in with support mechanisms for our local communities. The minorities can do it at an affordable price, and sometimes even for free. That's when we just announced for this fall semester, Miami-Dade County coming with a full scholarship for any student that wants to study in technology. Anyone, doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the background, just that you're a local resident. Why? Because we need to build a pipeline for those companies that are looking for talent. So it's partnership with local government to come with the funds to help our community with a pathway to a job. So definitely partnerships, the key, the solution for economic mobility.
If I could
Please,
say
you-
something.
please.
So speaking of partnerships, I think one of the issues that I find as a continuous challenge is that as partners, academic institutions, social service organizations, economic development organizations, I think we need to invest more time in understanding the lay of the land, right? By the lay of the land, I mean we need to understand who our customers are. So by that, who are they in terms of their immigration status? What kinds of services are available to support their pathway to stability, jobs, and everything else? Because very often there are training programs, training opportunities that are tied to a certain legal status in this country, and very often all of us as partners are not always clear about what those differences are. So I think we need to invest more time in just understanding what the rules are, what the laws are, what the regulations are, and what services are associated to a certain designation or category of immigrant. That's one. And in terms of the credentials programs that exist, I think we need to do more work in terms of expanding those so that we really look at what our market needs, what our workforce challenges are, and what these newcomers bring to the table, such that these credential programs can really reflect their skills, their talents, and their aspirations, right? And so I think we really need to do some work among partners to really understand, okay, a Haitian immigrant who comes in and has this status, right? Is he or she eligible for this training program offered by Broward College or this training program offered by Miami-Dade College? And very often we're left trying to figure out, okay, I know they are, but does the admissions person or the counselor know that this person is eligible for this particular program? So I think that's an area that we need to invest more time in.
Thank you, Gypsy. Melanie, please.
There's no shortage of organizations here in Broward County that are doing extraordinary work. And all of our populations are important, and all of us are dealing with the hardest to serve. What happens at LifeNet for Families is that we generally get the calls when all of the organizations that are dealing with the hardest to serve have someone who's harder than the hardest to serve. And they refer them to LifeNet for Families because they don't necessarily fit into the training program or the scenario, and they may not quite make it to the outcome by the end of the year. So then perhaps we can help. And we tend to look at it in two parts. One is, while we're creating programs for the people we serve, we look at the people who we employ. Because often the people who we employ are one paycheck away from being the people we serve. And so when you are seeing the needs that your staff has and the flexibility that's required in order for them to be able to continue to do the work, you have to understand that the people who we're serving are going to need that same type of flexibility. It's really hard to focus on a training program and education if you're hungry, if your health isn't intact, if you're a caregiver. And so at LifeNet for Families, we're trying to address a lot of those issues. Also, employers hire people for hard skills, right? Okay, the technical skills you have, but what do we fire people for? soft skills. And so at LifeNet, we really focus on training people for soft skills. You've heard me talk a little bit about it, even with our volunteers, because that's what people get fired for. They get fired because they show up late. They get fired because they have a poor attitude. They get fired because they come in the wrong attire every day. They get fired because they have poor follow-through. And we use a software that allows us to assess soft skills. It's called AccuVision. And with that software, we can assess soft skills and help people to hone in on those things that they need to improve so that they're better prepared for the workplace. It's really, really challenging to see so many people in our community who are lacking employment and still don't want to work. And not because they just don't want to work, because that's a misconception, but because employers are just not so good. And so we have to be better employers. We have to keep in mind what people are facing and what they're dealing with, and we have to make adjustments. We have to be flexible. The pandemic taught us all that, because now I know all of you who are hiring people are allowing some things that you didn't allow before. Well, maybe it doesn't matter what kind of shoes she has on. Maybe a skirt isn't so tight. You know, these are things that we were so focused on. The person has to be there at exactly on the dot. If they're running a few minutes late, you know, and now we're flexible. Now we want to think about mental health. These are things that we should have been thinking about all along, and I'm glad we finally caught up to it.
Thank you.
With all of the training programs that we implement, we really have to focus on those human issues that are not technical. So I encourage you to include those in your program design.
Thank you. What just occurred in this round robin of questions around those multiple sources, you saw an ecosystem. You know, you've got educators, providers. All we're missing here, and if I wasn't taking up this one seat, we need employer representatives and funders. So that will complete this ecosystem, but I know that's in this region, so I just want to make that point. But I can't believe 45 minutes have already passed, just like that. So we do have a series of questions from the audience, so thank you for that. I'm going to try to get through a few of them, if not all of them, so wish me luck, all right? First question I have here is, what connections or partnerships with employers are established for students as they complete their programs? Now, I know some of you mentioned, referenced that already. So if anyone wants, just one of you want to go ahead and highlight one, please.
So I'll give you two real quick.
Okay.
Memorial Healthcare, that's one of our larger partners. Many of the they come and they hire students right out of on campus. They do their own job fair because they already know the quality of the program. They've been involved in designing the curriculum and making sure it's taught. You mentioned automotive. Sheridan Technical College is the largest corporate automotive training center in the country. Most of the students in those programs are already working for the dealer, getting training, and then to keep going. So what we do is make sure that we are teaching the curriculum they need so that they get that proper student as they exit. I can name every program, welding, everything. So it's just working together from the very beginning.
Great. Dr. Karen.
I think I would echo that, you know, getting those employers to work with us to develop that curriculum. And at Broward College, we just don't look at those curriculums. We are wanting to push in those soft skills. We are very concerned with those soft skills because that's one of the things that we do see repeatedly. And so through our career centers, we provide training in soft skills. And it's not just general soft skills. It's related to their industry that they're going into, whether it's customer service or whatever it is related to their industry. We're making sure that they are completely ready. And we do that with our employers. We do that with the data from those employers to be able to develop that curriculum. And we're always wanting to make sure that the curriculum is up to date. So engaging our employers through business councils, we're making sure that everything that we have in our curriculum is up to date. We're also working on new and innovative areas that are coming, right? So whether it's artificial intelligence or augmented reality or all of those things that are the future of our industries. And so we're working with our partners to be able to make sure that we're not only ready for today, but we're ready for the job for tomorrow. And we need to make sure that all of our students are ready for that.
Gypsy, Melanie, Felipe, what takes that? Okay.
Well, I'm going to keep dreaming. Back in December 2019, I had the opportunity to meet with Broward County Public Schools HR director. He shared with me, he actually had the entire team this meeting, and we brainstormed, and the idea was to actually start recruiting for some of those occupations that actually they have not been able to fill because lack of workforce. And the conversation was about how can we create a career pathway model to make sure that Black and brown communities actually take some of those jobs. And we're gonna get back to that. I think that that's one employer, is the largest employer in Broward County. There are so many non-instructional positions. I'm not even talking about teachers, but non-instructional positions that pay well. What can we do? Higher ed institutions, the employers, and then the community-based organizations providing those wraparound services to make sure that the working poor have that opportunity. So I think that is a challenge that I'm putting on the table, for ourselves.
Thank you. No? 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 Okay. So this is a middle class summit, and this next question, I think, they're all great questions, but this one really kind of captures the work that great ecosystems can do and can affect. So here it goes. How are we ensuring that participants move towards self-sufficiency as they are transitioning to middle class status? Are there longitudinal studies being done to track their sustained success? Are there data reports? What's the story?
So I would like to make the example, or actually the answer is wraparound services. And the example is actually what OIC is doing, and they're really an example to follow on not just the training, not just the hard skills, but the soft skills and all the wraparound services that they need to be successful. Keeping up with the metrics, keeping up with mentorship, keeping up with the success coach all the way to get the employment and keeping that employment. So the metric shouldn't actually be getting employed. The metric should be, were you able to keep that employment 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later? That's the real metric that we made a difference. And that's what I think that OIC is doing a great job, and that's why we are so lucky to be partnered with them on the Good Job Challenge to make sure that we can deliver more than 1,000 people trained and placed and keeping those jobs in tech in particular in our region. So wraparound services for me is key, other than just teaching.
So for Broward Up, we did do a little bit of a study through TaxWatch, and what we did realize is that with all of the services that we would provide with our community partners, those wraparound services, the technical education and so on, there is a huge return on investment, but not only for the individual, but also for the community. We saw that people were getting off of federal assistance. We saw that people were able to obtain housing more, all those things. Of course, the pandemic probably put a wrench in some of that. But we do know that in the long term, it will work. And one of the other things that we're doing is that we're making sure that they're building assets, right? And so how do we make sure that as we're getting them those jobs, that they're getting those assets to become not only self-sustainable, but to make sure that they have long-term stability. And so we're thinking as things like entrepreneurship. There's a lot of individuals that are working on things where they could build those businesses, and we're helping people do that through our BCX, Broward College Entrepreneur Experience. which is a great project, which is really, really bringing in those startups and building that wealth. I don't think that, one credential, one industry certification is going to get you to that high wage. And so how do we guarantee that they are going to build that wealth and build that income is through, continue to work on those education, like I said, those career ladders with those businesses, making sure that they're prepared for the next step so that they are able to build wealth. One of the things that Sherry said from the Community Foundation was, how do we educate them to, yes, invest into the stock market, utilize what they have and what they're building to make sure that they're continuing to build that wealth through investments and through getting assets. The Alice report says that 33% of Florida, or I think Broward County residents are this close to South Florida, to an emergency, one emergency away to poverty. And so we need to make sure that individuals are building that wealth and that savings to be able to make sure that they are sustaining. So we can give them all the education and all of those things, but we need to make sure that they're building that for themselves and being able to sustain or to increase, from that middle class. I mean, I would love to see everybody go to that high level, right? And that longitudinal study that we're doing is really looking at that. We're making sure that people are moving not just one income quintile, but more than one, 2, 3 income quintile by the time that they get their credential. And we're doing that by looking at the jobs in our community, making sure we're aligning that to not just those entry levels, looking at the career ladders, looking at what we can offer to the residents, in some cases free, to make sure that they are eligible for those middle to high wage jobs. And that's really important because we can't allow them to just stay at that floor entry level, right? We need to help them build that almost guaranteed income. And if they get a technical certificate, their income will raise by 44%. And the technical certificate, sometimes you can get that in less than a year. And so we need to make sure that we're building those things by making sure that they are able to move up with their income and gain the assets that they need.
Thank you, and thank the panel, please. What a great... We could easily do this for another hour, but we've been told we don't have an hour, so we don't want to stand in the way of the next session. So thank you for your time and your questions.
So are you in Miami only, or are you?
I am Miami.
Okay. Because I was like, well,